And by the way, thank you for having me. This has been a tremendous honor to give my little wisdom and my little words of advice and have an opportunity to hear from other amazing women who are awesome leaders. And so, again, thank you for having me on today. Just a quick bio about myself. I'm currently the Assistant Vice President of Financial Crimes and Risk Management Solutions for Genpact. For those who don't know who Genpact is, we are a global professional service provider, and specifically I work in the areas of financial crimes compliance. So I do a multitude of things, from delivery for all of our clients that are global to solutioning. I do work on a lot of the deals and services that we prepare for our clients when they look at their AML programs and they need assistance in uplifting their programs or getting through investigations or doing AML or KYC. I work on solutionings for that. And then I also work on our global delivery strategy as well. So, we have a large presence in India. So a lot of my colleagues are based, what we say, offshore in India. And then I lead the U.S. operations here in the States as it relates to AML. In terms of my career, I am a licensed attorney. I have practiced law way back in the day. I've worked in state government. I was a political appointee. I started my career out of law school working in athletic compliance, where I worked at the NCAA, at their corporate office, and worked in athletics. So I've kind of had the opportunity to work across a lot of different careers. And AML and compliance and banking compliance just really became a great career for me and a good niche. And so we could start the slide presentation. So, spoiler alert, I'm probably not going to introduce any new concepts to you today. I'm probably not going to share any new thoughts. Some of the information that I'm going to present today, you guys have already heard. It's not going to be new to you. And another caveat, it's probably a little selfish, right? Because I think not only for myself and not only for the audience that's listening, it's a reminder that we should always be investing in ourselves. And I think with our demanding careers, with our families, with our loved ones, I think it's very easy to sometimes lose that focus and forget about where you fit into that process. And so I just wanted us to take a step back from talking about our careers, talking about being amazing leaders, and focus on ourselves, again, which can be hard to do for some people. Next slide. So this is more of a rhetorical question, but when's the last time you fill in the blank? It could be anything. It could be workout. I'm horrible. I probably need to have a better exercising regime, if I'm going to be honest. Volunteering, there was a time I used to love to volunteer professionally. I don't have the opportunity to do that as much as I enjoy. I do like dining out, which is probably why I need to continue to work out, but that's another story. Something as simple as daydreaming, just having the time to take 5 minutes where you can just decompress or fantasize about something, maybe it's, hot new actor or being on the beach someplace or, hitting the lotto and not ever having to work again. These are things that it allows you to just decompress and think about you and your life and your purpose and your calling. And so it's a small way for you to just spend that little time indulging yourself and, investing in you. And so I just wanted to kick off this presentation with giving you guys that idea of when's the last time you did something that you enjoy doing or you haven't had a chance to do or you haven't done in a long while. So try to do that today if you can. Next slide. So, no-brainer, right? Why should you be investing in you? Sounds easy. Again, this is probably not going to be earth-shattering information, but it's a reminder about how awesome and amazing we are. We are, or you are, for that matter, your best asset. There's no other better return. There's no other better investment than yourself. And so when you approach your life, when you look at yourself and look at the things, the attributes that you bring, know that you're invaluable, really. The sky is really the limit. So keep that in mind when you think about investing in you. Investing in yourself opens up endless possibilities, right? Not just professionally, personally. Lord willing, we get to live a long time. So think about all the experiences, all the exposures that you get to have in that time frame. So, again, that just opens up so many possibilities, right? When you look at your careers, I believe my first speaker, she had an amazing career. She thought she would spend her one career, with Southwest Airlines. And her skills, her experience, her expertise, she was able to move on to different sectors of careers and impact people's lives and grow and develop herself. And so, not only her, but a lot of the women on this call get the opportunity to do those things. The return on investment is endless. Again, along to that previous point that I'm making, the more you invest in yourself, you're not going to lose anything, right? If you invest in yourself, you're totally not going to lose anything. That is something that's going to benefit you from now into eons. And lastly, it helps you find your purpose, right? Sometimes I think we as women can, like I said, get bogged down, or either we focus on one area or we're all over the place and we focus here and there. But sometimes that purpose or things that we are meant to do can somehow get lost into things that we have to do. And so that's something to just think about when you look at why you should be investing in you. Next slide, please. So, sounds easy enough, right? We discussed that you need to invest in yourself. Now, what exactly does that look like? And so, when I was thinking about this and just kind of doing research on it as well, because I wanted to also I wanted this not to be my opinion. But I thought about, like with anything else and what any other good leader would do, right? We would create a plan. And so I want you all to think about what areas at this stage in your life do you want to invest in? And I kind of just focused 4 areas because I think if you invest in those 4 areas, you kind of hit on who we are as individuals and as people. And so something to think about is your mind, your body, your soul, and your heart. And something to be said about that, right? Sometimes it can be intimidating. Sometimes you may feel like you need to invest or spend time in all 4 areas. Sometimes in different seasons in your life, one area takes precedence over the other. But it's important to think about and be intentional about how you want to invest in yourself. For me, I think my season, health is becoming more important, right? We're in the middle of a pandemic. I have a highly stressful job where I unfortunately don't get the amount of sleep that I should get. And so how is that impacting me? And are those good investments? And what can I do to, invest in having a better quality of life in that area? Your mind. I inundated all day with work and thinking. It's important for me to tap into my creative side, right? The things that I enjoy and love doing. That's a way for me to de-stress. That's a way for me to relax. And so it's important to develop those areas. Soul, spirituality. For some people, that's important to me, but for some people, it may be yoga, it may be meditating, it may be doing a lot of different things. And then again, your heart, having loved ones or family or maintaining a marriage or dating, or if you're not dating, trying to find the time to date. Those are areas where you want to invest in because those are critical areas of how you enjoy your life. Then I think we need to ask ourselves, how much time are you willing to invest, right? Because it sounds great on a piece of paper. It sounds great on a PowerPoint. But realistically, anytime you make an investment, sometimes you really don't get the returns back right away, right? Sometimes if it's a meme stock, like if we look at it in the real world, maybe you might get a big boom first couple of weeks or months, and then your returns kind of slide down. So you have to ask yourself how much time and how much energy and even money sometimes are you willing to invest in yourself. Sometimes, realistically, when you look at the journey in totality, you'll be investing in yourself all your life. But what does that look like? And so that's also something to, think about as well. And then begin with the end in mind. This was a lesson I learned at my very young age. It was a very favorite saying from one of my mentors. She always told me to begin with the end in mind. And when you do that, you kind of have an idea of where you want to go. And so when you look at these areas, when you talk about investing in yourself, you kind of have a viewpoint of where you want to be. Me personally, I keep bringing up fitness and journey. I have put on a few pounds in the pandemic. I don't know how many ladies or males in the audience have as well, but I'm going to be honest, I have. And so the goal now for me is to lose those 15 pounds that don't want to seem to disappear. And so I can keep saying I want to lose it. I can visualize me, losing a few pounds or two. But what am I doing, and how much time am I willing to invest in that, right? Time would be me being intentional about working out and exercising and buying the proper food and doing all the things that I know I should do. Energy as well. It's much easier to sit on the couch or sit in a chair versus lifting weights or running on the treadmill. But I have an end goal, right? And so it's going to require me to do all of those things to get there. And so, again, always begin with that end in mind. It could be, career, as we talk about careers and where do we want to be and what does that look like? Having that action step, making those relationships with colleagues and peers, having a mentor, right? Looking at what opportunities are out there. And again, like we're talking about this pandemic opportunity. And I think it was maybe Laura on the last call that talked about how this has changed the shift of how women have entered and exited into the workplace, right? And so while in some ways it's been a shift, in a lot of ways there's opportunities as well. And so, again, that thinking about where you fit at in this larger picture of investing in yourself. And is this the season for you to reap those benefits and returns? And then one final point on this is always add to your portfolio, right? They say one of the key things is when you're investing, you should diversify your portfolio, right, to get more returns. And secondly, you want to have a full portfolio, and and you want to continue to keep investing in them. You don't just buy 2 or 3 stocks. You buy a lot of different stocks, and you keep adding because you want to generate wealth, right? Well, the same thing applies to you. Never stop investing in yourself. I think it looks different at different phases in your life, but don't stop doing it. Don't get stagnant, and it's very easy to do. You can get very into routine. I get up, I go to work, come home, I'm with my family and kids. I do this, I do that, but don't stop investing in you. I can't stress that enough. And I know it's easier said than done, but I think it's very important to make sure you continue to do that. Next slide, please. So here's something that I want us to all to think about, what's holding us back. Are we, and this is, like I said, again, more so for myself, but I want people to really think about this. Are you actively investing in yourself? Or is it something that it's a thought, maybe I'm giving this presentation today, some of you all I hope are listening, and you'll say, oh yeah, I should get back to that, I should do that. And then we'll get off this call, we'll get off this conference, and then you go about your day, and you forget about it. So ask yourself, are you actively investing in yourself? And then I want you to think about, if you're not, why? Is it time? Is it, resources? You don't think you have the resources that you need. You don't know where to start. Uh, those are things that I want you to kind of actively think about when, in terms of investing in yourself. Because if you can identify what those areas are, it can help catapult you in the right direction to do the right thing. And keep in mind what are some of the things you can do to get started to continue to invest in you, right? And it doesn't, and with that point, what I want to stress is that it doesn't have to be anything that's, grand or extreme, or you have to take a workshop, or, that is super intentional, or you budget time. Because sometimes that can be discouraging, right? Like if it becomes a thing, it becomes one more thing on your list to do in your day that you have to do, then maybe if it's not work, maybe if it's not kids, maybe if it's not your family, then it's easier to kind of push on that back burner, push away from it being the priority that it should be. So again, think about what's holding you back and how intentional you can be to making yourself that priority and investing in yourself. Next slide. So again, you've probably heard this. You're probably doing some of these things. This isn't rocket science. I'm sure you're familiar with it. But what are some of the ways you can start to invest in you? And number one is just prioritizing yourself, making you a priority. And I don't think a lot of people do that enough. I think some people are good with it, but I think that, including myself, this is an area that we can always work on, making yourself a priority. And this list, by the way, it's not inclusive, all inclusive, and there's a couple interesting things on there. Drink water. Again, ladies, I don't know, or guys that are on the call, I don't like water. Personally, I prefer champagne. I'm just kidding, but I do like champagne. But water is a challenge for me, and I have done everything. I have done the really cute, fun-looking containers. I had the jug where I wrote inspirations, like at 2 o'clock I would do this, I would drink that, and then at 3 o'clock I would drink it because my goal is to drink a gallon of water a day. And for months it went on with me just forcing myself to try to drink a gallon. And then I just said one day, listen, if I don't drink the gallon, I just don't drink it. But the goal is to drink more water. So some days I'm able to do it. Some days I'm not, and I no longer beat myself up about it, because sometimes we can, make these goals and make these things be larger than what they are, and they don't have the positive impact that they need to be. Eat regularly. I don't have a problem with that, but we'll skip that one. Exercise. You've heard my saga story about that. Sleep. Ladies, if I'm being honest with you, I have had 2 RFPs that I've had to submit. Half the team is actually out traveling, and I have literally probably had about 7 hours in the last 72 hours. That is not, and I'm giving a presentation on investing in yourself. So I know that's not the right thing to do, but working on ways not to do those type of things. So sleep is important. Take a break when needed. Again, that's so critical. I will be taking a break after I find out whether or not my colleagues have submitted this bid today. We will be taking a break this afternoon. Again, that spiritual piece, I can't stress enough. Whether you meditate, I pray. I believe in Christ. So that time also grounds me as well. And it's important to have that time outside of yourself, outside of others, where you can center yourself and think about ways to develop yourself. And then I won't go through the entire list. But treat yourself. That's the last one. And I'm an advocate and a firm believer of that too. Treat yourself, whatever that may look like. If it's, something material like a new dress or, some new shoes. I also like shoes too, but that's another story. Whether it's, buying books. I love audiobooks, so That's my favorite. Do something to treat yourself and make you feel loved and special. That's important. Again, I think so many people don't take the time to do that, or they forget to do that. And it doesn't even have to be monetary. Sometimes treating yourself can just be outdoors, just being outdoors, enjoying the sun, and just taking that time and moment to yourself. Next slide. And that's it. I can open it up for questions. I didn't want this presentation to be very heavy. I knew we were going to be talking about a lot of serious things. But again, even very selfishly for me, I wanted to just remind not only myself, but the individuals and groups of folks on the call that take time to invest in yourself. Thank you.
Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. And just as a reminder, if anyone would like to ask a live question and you have dialed into the call, if you hit 5-star, I can unmute you and you can ask a live question, or keep those questions coming to the chat. So let's kind of dive into some of the questions that we've received from the chat. Our first question comes from Brittany, and she says, how do I successfully ask about work-life balance in a job interview?
That's a good question. I think there was a time that maybe it was a little taboo to ask that question. But I think in this days and times, I think people are actually more sensitive to this topic. And so I think, after you've discussed the role in the position, then I would bring it up maybe in the context of what is the culture like? Because every employer has their own culture. So is this something that they encourage? Is it something that they not encourage? I think by how they respond will let you know what that culture is and how they view that, without necessarily you asking, hey, will I be able to do this? Or, hey, will I be able to do that? Or how do you feel about this? That's how I probably would pose it.
That's wonderful advice. So our next question comes from Abby. And Abby says, in regards to investing in you, how do I have a conversation with the supervisor about this? I want to start an evening MBA program, but I'm going to need to leave early from work at times.
Gotcha. I would say there's a couple different ways you can bring it up. And I think, sadly, sometimes your relationship with your supervisor can make that conversation easy, or it can make it a challenging conversation. So I'm going to be positive, and I'm going to assume that you have a good relationship with your supervisor. And I would try to create time where you all can discuss that, and that may look like, hey, I want to reach out to you. There's some things I want to talk to you and discuss with you. And then you have that conversation. Hey, this is something that I'm looking to do to not only better myself, but through this, secondhandedly, the job will benefit from it. And so this is what I'm looking to do. This is what the course looks like. And this is what it would require for me, and what I may need from the this where you're working at, and see how that feedback works. But again, there's so many factors that I don't know your role. I don't know what your responsibilities or expectations are, but I think there's nothing wrong with making it known that you want to do these things, and hopefully you work for an employer that doesn't have a problem with you investing in yourself. But that would be the conversation I'll have.
Wonderful advice. So our next question comes from Kara, and she says, what would you say to our young employees that are just starting out regarding work-life balance?
I would say think about your career and how you want your career to look. And I get a lot of young people don't know, right? They have no clue what it will look like. Maybe the position or the role that they're in right now is not even something that they may be terribly interested in. But encourage them that have those conversations and those mentorships, and then where their passions lies. For example, I had 3 interns this summer, and and we gave them projects, and we were working on stuff. And I got the sense that maybe, what they were working on, it didn't interest them. And so, in my management style and my personality style is very open door and, and mentoring and mothering a little bit. And I just asked them on a call, I said, interesting to you guys? And, young people being young people, they were very transparent and said, well, no. And I said, well, tell me why. Talk to me. Tell me why. And so they were saying that they didn't have a connection or a nexus to it. And they didn't understand, why is this interesting or fun? And so I talked to them from a career perspective. I said, what are you guys going to be doing when you graduate? And it turned into, I don't know. And so I said, well, do you know how much you can potentially earn in this career? I don't know. So we had that conversation. And so that kind of opened their eyes up a little bit. I think they took a very different approach when they could understand what, why they're doing this internship, what this job looks like, and financially what that means. And we had that conversation as well, is that you shouldn't always take a job because of money, but you should know what that different aspects of the career, right, and how it can benefit you. So I think that mentorship and having that idea is important, and then the balance of not giving up your passions. I'm very passionate about encouraging people that. We had a guy who was a gamer. That was what he kind of did on the side, and he continued to do that while he was working for us. And ultimately, it left from him starting out, leaving the company and becoming an entrepreneur. And so I was just very proud of him and very amazed that he took his passion, something he enjoyed doing, and made it into a career for him. And so that's a possibility as well.
Oh, that's wonderful advice. So I think we'll let this be our final question, and then we will ask you for some final advice before we move on to our final presentation. And this question comes from Vicki, and she says, prior to COVID, I was achieving work-life balance. Now I'm struggling to make small strides to take care of me. The days seem to be shrinking. How are you finding more time for you with the stretched workday?
Vicki, that's an excellent question. And that's why when I said I was being selfish when I did this presentation, that's one of them. I think some of the challenges with COVID and working from home is that does work really stop, right? Do we, when you're in the office, you can leave, right? In the car, I think somebody talked about they had that space where they can decompress and they can get away from work. Now work is in the home with you, right? So if you get a ping, or if someone calls you, or if you hear that ding for the email, what do? Do you check your laptop and look and see what it is? And if it's a question or if somebody needs something, do you respond right then? I find personally my days go on and on and on, and so short answer, I guess the long answer to your question is I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out too, but I think knowing that that's probably not the best thing to do, and trying to create boundaries and being aware of it and creating boundaries, I think is a step in the right direction. And making that effort, again, like I said, baby steps. I bought an exercise bike since I'm here in the house. And so I make sure I do 30 minutes a day. That's my investing in myself. That's doing the right things in terms of me exercising. And it gets me away from my quote-unquote corner office in my home, away from my laptop, and doing something for me. So I would just encourage you to find one thing that you can do, that you want to do for yourself, and begin to do it.
That's great advice. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for that presentation. Do you have any final thoughts as we wrap up?
I guess my final thought would be the last one I just had. Always, don't lose you in the race to the race to be the best that you can be. I think sometimes we pour out into other people. We're so focused on being awesome leaders. We're often distracted a lot of times as well. but don't lose focus on being you. And so I encourage everybody to, invest in yourself and keep on reaping those benefits.
Well, thank you so much for your time and your energy being with us this afternoon.
No problem. And again, thank you all for having me. And I hope that some people enjoyed this and walked away with something new.
Yes, we all did. Thank you so much.